Welcome to lecture 3 of Python module, and in this video we will be covering what is Python output, how to take input from users, various kind of operators, Python namespace and variable scope. So let's get started. So let's start with Python output. So we will be using print function to display our output. So print function has 5 optional parameters: object, sep, end, file and flush. Object is a mandatory value and it is the value or values to be printed. Sep allows you to separate multiple objects inside the print function and determine what should be printed at the end of the output. File specify where the output should be printed with the default being the screen, and flush is a boolean which specify whether the output should be immediately displayed or buffered, and its default value is false, therefore output is buffered. Now these parameters provide flexibility for formatting and directing the output of print function. Now let's see the examples of print function. So in this example, print function has only object inside it. Hence, the value of end is not used. It will be taking the default value of end, which is \n, which means new line. So when we will be seeing the output, it is in two different lines. So good morning and it's a rainy day today are printed in two different lines. Why? Because end default value is \n. Now let's see more example. Here we are actually specifying end with the white space in between. Hence we will get the output in a single line separated by space. So good morning, it's a rainy day today. It's a single line and we have white space in between. In this example, the print statement include multiple items separated by commas. Notice we have declared one optional parameter sep. Hence, the output include item separated by the arrow sign, as you can see in the output itself. Now, let's play more around the print function. So, we can also join two strings together inside the print function. Here, we are using the plus operator to join two strings, that is Python is and easy. Now the print function actually prints the joined string. So this is also known as concatenation. So whenever you want to concatenate two strings, we will be using addition operator, which actually makes these strings joined. So Python is easy is printed together. Now let's see how to do output formatting. So sometimes we would like to format our output to make it look attractive. This can be done by using the format method. So here's an example. X and Y are the variables and then I'm using formatting in print function, that is the value of X is this and the value of Y is this, and then I'm using dot format X and Y. So basically I'm using curly braces as a placeholder and these placeholder will be filled by using tuple indexing. So X will be taking my first placeholder and Y variable will be taking my second placeholder. This is the output we will be getting in this code. Now let's do another type of formatting in string. So I will be using the same example and let's do the formatting of string in different way. So either you can use format method or you can use f string. Therefore, in front of string, you just need to write f, which means that this particular string is now ready to get format. So I'm removing this format method and inside the placeholder, I will be passing the variables whose value I want. So when I'm running this particular code, you can see that both the outputs, output of above code and output of this code are same. So you can do string formatting in either of the cases. So now let's talk about Python input. While programming, we might want to take input from the user. In Python, we can use input function. The input function in Python is used to accept user input from the keyboard. It takes an optional parameter called prompt, which is a string displayed as a message to the user. When executed, it displays the prompt and waits for the user to enter input. The input is returned as a string. Very important, the input returns as a string, which can be stored in a variable or used in further operations. So in this example, we are using input function and also entering the prompt, which will be visible to user when he is entering a number. So the input function will take input from the user and store the value in the num1 variable. And it's important to note that the entered value, which will be, for example, let's run this program and I'm entering a value 10. So this 10 is integer for me, but then I'm running it. It is giving me the data type as string. Why? Because input takes user input as string. So to convert user input into a number, we can actually do typecasting using int float functions. So in this particular code lines, I'm creating a variable num2, which is taking input from a user, and user is able to see enter a number. But this number will be taken as a string by the input. So to convert it into the integer type, I need to do typecasting as we have studied in previous lecture. So now when we will print our number, it will print us, for example, I'm printing here 10 again and pressing enter. So I entered 10, but this time my data type will be int and not string. Let's move to different topic, that is Python operator. So operators are special symbols that perform operations on variable and values. So in Python, we have different type of operators like arithmetic, assignment, comparison, logical, bitwise, and special. We will be seeing each of these operators in detail with the help of example. So arithmetic operator, as the name suggests, it will help us in performing mathematical operation. For example, we are taking two integers here, a and b, and they have integer type values 7 and 2. Now I need to do sum of these two. So I will be using addition operator, which is a plus sign. If I want to do subtraction of these two values, I will be using minus operator. Similarly, for multiplication and division, I have these particular symbols. Now I have float division. What do we mean by float division? So float division will return me the integer value of question when I'm dividing a and b. So for example, I'm dividing 3 by 2. So it question is 1.5. But float division will return me only one, that is an integer value of question. So division will give me a float value and float division will give me an integer value. Now also we have modulo. Modulo means remainder. This is a percentage sign. And we can also do power of two numbers, that is a ##, b. That is a raised to the power b. So when I'm running this particular code, let's see the working of each operation. Sum is able to do sum, that is 7 plus 2, 7 minus 2, 7 into 2, 7 by 2, and 7 by 2 float division. So this is giving me the actual value quotient, which is also a float value, and float division will give me an integer value of quotient. Modulo is the remainder, and when we are dividing 7 by 2, our remainder is 1, and power, that is 7 raised to the power 2, is nothing but 49. 7 is to 7 is 49. Assignment operator is used to assign value to a variable, but not only equal to is an assignment operator. You can play around with arithmetic operators with assignment operator. For example, plus equals to is an addition assignment. So what does this mean? This means that you are adding a to b and assigning this value back to a. So a plus equals to b is nothing but a is equal to a plus b. So when I'm printing value of a, this will give me 10 plus 5, that is 15. So now let's run subtraction assignment. So all I need to do is minus instead of plus. What should it return me? It should return me 5. That is 10 minus 5. Similarly, you can do multiplication. That will be known as multiplication assignment. And when we will run this, it will be 10 into 5, which is 50. Similarly, division. So 10 divided by 5 is 2, so 2 will be the output. Since this is a normal division, it will give me a float value. But if I do float division, which is also known as float assignment in this case, because I'm also using equals to sign, it will return me only 2. So this is how you can play with assignment and arithmetic operator. Now let's see what are comparison operators. Comparison operators are used to compare two values. For example, we have two values a and b. So it's not important to have only integer numeric type. You can compare strings, bitwise, different type of data. So let's, for example, we are taking integer type of a and b, and now I want to compare whether a and b are equal or not. For that, we have double equals to operator. Since one equals to sign is already assigned to the assignment operator, to avoid confusion, if I want to compare whether two values are equal or not, I will be using double equals to sign, which is a part of comparison operator. Now, if I want to check whether a and b are not equal, I will be using exclamatory mark and equal to. So this is a sign of not equals to. So this is greater than, less than, greater than equal to, less than equal to. This perform similar to the math which we learned in our 4th, 5th class. So let's see the output and understand more what it says. So one thing which we noticed is all the outputs are either true or false. So first thing, comparison operator returns Boolean type. So a and b are not equal, so this returns me false. A and b not equal, this is true. This statement is true that a and b are not equal. Therefore, it is returning me true. Is a greater than b? Yes, so this is returning me true. They are used to perform logical operations on Boolean values, that is true or false. These operators are used to combine or manipulate Boolean expression. We have three types of operators. AND. So AND operator will return true if both the operands are true. Otherwise, it will return false. For example, here both the values are true. This statement will print true. Since one of the operand is false, this particular statement will print false. Why? Because we are using logical operator AND here. Now let's talk about OR. So OR is like a logical disjunction, which means that it will return true if at least one of the operand is true. Otherwise, it will return false. Since here one is true and we are using OR operator, this statement will return true. Now let's talk about NOT. NOT returns the opposite Boolean value of the operand. If the operand is true, NOT returns false, and if the operand is false, NOT will return true. So this is the output of the following code. So let's talk about Python bitwise operator. So bitwise AND. So this operator compares corresponding bits of two numbers and return a new number where each bit is a set of 1 only if both corresponding bits in the input numbers are 1. Otherwise, the bit is set to 0. For example, we have two inputs of variable a and b. Now this is converted into their binary format, and if both of them has 1, 1, it will give me 1 in my output, else it will give me zeros. Now this again is converted into its decimal format and is stored in my result AND. Similarly, the OR operator. The bitwise OR operator compares the corresponding bits of two numbers and returns a new number where each bit is set to 1 if either of the corresponding bits in the input number is 1. If both bits are false, the result bit is also set to 0. So basic AND and OR logic which we used in our logical operators as well. But the only difference is in logical operator we were using it on Boolean values true and false. In bitwise operator, we are using it on zeros and ones. That's it. So we also have a bitwise OR operator. It compares the corresponding bits of two numbers and returns a new number where each bit is set to 1 if only one of the corresponding bit in the input numbers is 1. If both bits are 0 or both bits are 1, the result bit is set to 0. In short, I can say that XOR will return me 1 if both of them are different. If both of them are 0, for example 0, 0 or 1, 1, if both the bits are same, it will return me 0. Bitwise NOT operator. It negates each bit of a number. It flips all the bits from 0 to 1 and from 1 to 0. We also have bitwise left shift and right shift, and these are the symbols. How to remember them? Consider them as arrow. So since this arrow is pointing towards left side, this is a symbol of left shift, and this symbol is pointing towards the right side. This symbol is of right shift. So left shift operator shifts the bit of a number to the left by a specified number of positions. Zeros are filled on the right side, as you can see in this example as well. And right shift shifts the bit of a number to the right by a specified number of positions. And here zeros are filled on the left hand side. So that's all about the bitwise operator. It's important to notice the symbol, and symbol, or symbol, XOR symbol, not symbol, left shift and right shift. Python namespace, a mapping of every name we have defined to a corresponding object. Now this allows us to use the same name for different variable or objects in different part of your code without causing any conflicts or confusion. Now, what are the type of namespaces we have? We have built-in namespace, like we are using print function or type function. These all are built-in. It contains the names of all the built-in functions provided by Python. These names are always available and do not require any import statement. Second, we have a global namespace. It requires name defined at the top level of a module or declared as global within a function. These names can be accessed from anywhere within the module. Therefore, in your entire module, you can access these global namespace either by importing them or by declaring them as global at the start of your code. Now we have local namespace. It represents the namespace of a function or a code block. It contains names that are defined within the function or block and are only accessible within that scope. Now, to get the deeper knowledge of the scope and namespace, let's understand the variable scope. So the scope of a variable defines the portion of a code where the variable is visible and can be accessed. Each namespace has its own scope, and the scope determines the visibility and lifetime of a variable. Now, Python follows the LEGB rule to resolve names in order of local, enclosing, global, and built-in. Therefore, any variable which is local will be accessed and visible only in its local code or function. Now we have global code which can be accessed throughout our module. We will be declaring it as global, and in built-in we don't even need to import them. They are already available to us, and as the interpreter starts, we have the built-in variables or built-in namespace available to us. Now let's understand this through the example. We are declaring a global variable at the start of our code. Now we have two functions, outer function and inner function. And for outer function, we have declared one variable which is local to the outer function. And we are also declaring one inner variable for inner function which is local variable to the inner function. Now inner function will print the inner variable and outer function will print the outer variable. And then it will call the inner function. So this is the entire task of this function which we have defined. Now finally we are printing global variable which is 10, and then we are calling our outer function. Our outer function will actually print the outer variable, that is 20, and then it will call inner function which will print inner variable, that is 30. So what should be our output? It should be first global variable which is 10. Then it should be the outer variable which is 20, and then it should be an inner variable because we are calling inner function, and that is 30. So 10, 20 and 30. So let's move towards the second example. So we have a variable, global variable as 10, and then we are defining a function. In that function we are defining a local variable, but now as you know that the global variable cannot be modified inside the function. It is already declared outside the function. So if you want to modify or change your global variable, it's important to define our global variable inside your function as well. So we are actually declaring global variable as global inside our function. And then we are capable of changing its value and then printing it off. Now let's print the global variable and then call my function. So when we are printing a global variable, it is 10. But when we are printing my function, but when we are calling my function, it is actually modifying the value of global variable and then printing it as 30. So our output should be 10 and 30. So that's all in this video. Let's revise what all we have learned in this video. We talked about print statement. It has 5 parameters, and by default value of end is \n, which means new line. We can do output formatting by using the formatting and placeholder. In input function, its prompt is string by default. So if you want any other data type from user, you need to typecast it. Then we have various Python operators like arithmetic operator, There we have division and float division, where division gives you the float value and float division gives you the integer value. Modulo gives you the remainder, and power is basically the exponential. We have assignment operator, which is equals to, and we can play around it using the arithmetic operators. We have comparison operators, simple, which we have learned in math as well. Then we have logical operators, and, or, and not. We have bitwise operator, wherein we have symbols for and, or, zor, not, left shift and right shift. Then we move forward learning about special operators like identity and membership. Identity is and is not. Membership is in and not in. Then we talked about namespace and scope. We have three types of namespace like built-in, global, and local. And variable scope, we deal using LEGB rule, which is local, enclosing, global, and built-in. So as you can see that for inner function, inner variable is local. For outer function, outer variable is local, and global variable is global to our entire code. And outer variable is local to outer function, but it is enclosing for the inner function because it's neither global nor local. Now, we have finally seen in our last code that we can actually modify a global variable by declaring it again inside your function. So that's all in this video.